What's up, Baylor fans? This is Cole Barber, along here with Grayson Grunhafer of Signum 365 with a bit of breaking news. Baylor just received a 2027 commitment from Lone Star athlete Karece Hoyt. This is a big-time pickup for Baylor. An athlete kind of to be determined on what position he plays, but offers from Michigan, Penn State, A&M, Kansas State, and another one of those recruiting victories that kind of just trickle along that gives you a lot of faith in this coaching staff and what they're doing on the recruiting trail the last couple of cycles. But Grayson, what can you tell us about Hoyt, what this means for Baylor's 27 class, or just also the momentum that they have on the recruiting trail right now?
Man, this is a big one for the Bears. He's been a priority for 2 years now. He's been a guy that they've had on campus a ton. He's already been to 2 games this year. He went to the Samford game and the Arizona State game. So he's been around the Baylor program a lot. And he just kind of dropped a top 5 pretty casually during the week, and then ended up, of course, making his decision. His top 5 was Baylor, Michigan, Penn State, Texas A&M, and Kansas State. That was his top 5 at the end of it. But he had offers from, you name it, he probably had an offer from them. Miami, Arizona, Indiana, Ole Miss, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas Tech, a lot of really good offers. And I think the biggest thing with him is positional versatility. He is very good at a lot of things. You turn on his tape, he was playing quarterback as a sophomore and just dominating. I mean, his sophomore numbers were insane. He threw for 3,300 yards, 34 touchdowns, and he ran for 1,500 yards in 2020 and 21 touchdowns. So he's got that kind of versatility, and you're watching him this year, and he's playing more wide receiver and playing more running back this year and doing more of the same for that Lone Star team, which is going to be one of the better teams in the state, going to be a contender for a state championship. And so he is just a playmaker. And then on the other hand, he could play defense as well. So right now I kind of view him as a wide receiver for Baylor, but I think there's actually a pretty good chance that he could end up playing safety. It's probably going to be one of those things where you get him on campus, figure out where he's best at. You probably let him start wherever he wants to start at, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, so if he did play safety, interestingly enough, the other 2027 commitment is Devontre Kirkland, another 4-star kid. And I mentioned this, Baylor's momentum on the recruiting trail and just some of the guys that they're able to get committed. You look at their 26 class, which is a 27 prospect, but another 4-star kid committed. And I don't want to gear away this discussion from Hoyt specifically, but this NIL era of Baylor being able to focus in on guys and have discussions with guys about how they're prioritizing. This is a great example. Kirkland, Hoyt, both of just like, hey, like you could go somewhere else, but we're making you our priority, and not just as we're going to give you a lot of attention, but this is also ultimately a revenue share NIL type of situation. And I think guys are really paying attention to that. And you've seen these, Texas Tech's a great example, but you look across the board at recruiting cycles and where kids are going in Texas. And it used to be, let's go out of state. These kids go out of state and play at other Michigans or Miamis or wherever. But now it's like, well, just stay home. We can prioritize you and give you your fair share. Hoyt seems like that kind of prospect that has offers from everyone, but decides to stay in Texas and go to Baylor.
Right. And I think another part of that equation, Colt, and you really have seen it in the 2026 class, and now, of course, in 2027, Baylor has really kind of narrowed their lists early on in recruitment cycles. I mean, look at the guys they have committed. I mean, Jamarian Carlton, recruiting him forever. Jordan Clay, recruiting him forever. Jamarian Vincent, recruiting him forever. London Smith, like Quinn Murphy, like so many of these guys had offers so early on in their recruitment, and Baylor just was consistent, kept building those relationships, kept developing those relationships, kept trying to narrow their focus on guys. And that's what they did this past cycle. And now you got Devontre Kirkland and Karece Hoyt, 2 guys who, again, very early Baylor offers, and Baylor just kept making them a priority. And then you're able to land guys like this. And so for Hoyt specifically, the relationship with Keenan Hall was big here. Keenan, of course, a big-time recruiter in the Dallas area. Great relationship there. That was kind of a big part, I think, of his recruitment. Other relationships as well, though, with Dallas Baker and Jamar Chaney, and just the simple fact that he's been around the program so much. So you can throw Dave Aranda in there as well. Like, there's a lot of familiarity there. And I think that's what made it so intriguing for Hoyt. Again, I think the versatility here is a big thing with him. The fact that he could play multiple positions, the fact that he could be really good at multiple positions as well. He's already about 6'2", 200, 6'2", 205, somewhere in that range. So, I mean, you could literally tell me he's going to play so many, like you could tell me running back, you could tell me he grows into a linebacker, you could tell me he's going to play safety, you could tell me he's going to stick at wide receiver. Like you could tell me any of those four and it really wouldn't surprise me at all. That's the kind of athlete that Baylor is getting with this commitment. And it's a big one as well because the school that he's at, like Lone Star, produces a lot of talent. And we saw Baylor this year recruit that school heavily. They
Yeah.
missed out on Jordan Deck, who flipped to Michigan just days after committing to Baylor, but they were in on him. They were in on Davian Gross as well, who, we'll see on him. Obviously committed to Florida, but Oklahoma is kind of there as well. Baylor's been recruiting him. So again, just building those connections and building that kind of recruiting pipeline to a big, big program like that with a lot of talent can't be understated.
Yeah, it's obviously you mentioned those two, but you start developing guys, recruiting guys that are older, and then it starts trickling down. You're just around them more. They talk about the coaches and those relationships, and it's just Keenan Hall, obviously a part of that. Part of that, Jamar Chaney involved here as well. But I am to the point of you want Baylor to win on the field in 2025, excuse me. But looking long term and the influx of talent that's coming through, that has to be part of the equation. And I'm not saying that Baylor could not recruit these guys moving forward with a new coaching staff, and obviously you want results to be moderate enough that you just say, okay, we're good with this trajectory. But you start looking at the guys that are on campus right now as freshmen. You start looking at the guys that will be coming in next spring. I don't know how many of the guys will be early enrollees for 26, but the talent level is going to take a step up, and there's no denying that right now. And that's massive for this Baylor program, who went through about a 2-year cycle where they couldn't get guys like this on campus. And if you want to start winning games, over regardless if it's a Big 12 or whatever non-conference games or bowl games that you're playing, you have to have more talent. And I like a lot of the guys that are on campus right now, but this is a step up again from what has been on campus the last few years.
It is, and it's a continued trend, and I think that's important as well. Now, obviously, you need to sign the class. They need to
Right.
sign this 2026 class, and you're kind of speaking to more, if Dave Aranda were to leave, what would that look like? And I understand all that, and yeah, it's interesting because recruits clearly are liking, kind of what's going on right now,
Yeah.
at 4-2, and that they see the positive momentum there that I think some fans don't see. But I do believe that the recruiting side of this is so important, and the fact that they had a good transfer portal cycle. I know some of those guys have underperformed. They've had injuries. I understand all that. But I think it was a clear step up this year, what they did in the portal. And then I think you're looking at high school recruiting. It's like, man, the 2025 class is awesome. Like you go through that class and it's like, man, if they didn't have a few guys that are severely underrated, this one would be challenging their best class of all time. And I think that's pretty evident, like the talent that they have assembled there. And you're exactly right. If this continues to build, they're going to have one of the most talented rosters they've ever had here in a few years, as long as they can get the transfer portal part of this right, to mix with that. But I really like the direction they're going. All these 4-star guys that they're landing, all these programs that they're beating in battles. Like we're not talking about, a bunch of guys who are committed who have offers from Texas State, UTSA, Nevada, whatever it may be.
Or
Like we're
even
talking,
mid-level P4 teams. Yeah.
yeah, a Duke or a Northwestern or whatever it may be. This is winning battles against big programs, blue blood type programs. And that's another one that they're building here with Karece Hoyt. Like he's got offers from everybody. I think he, again, adds to the positive momentum that this program is trying to build. And that's the important part here, is that they're winning. They're 4-2 on the season, and their recruiting classes continue to build, continuing to get better. You're continuing to have more and more positive momentum, more and more positive news. And now you mentioned it. If they can just go through this season, continue to maybe gain some momentum, maybe find some close wins, maybe turn the season around after the bye week. Like you could look at a 2025 recruiting class or a 2026 recruiting class that gets even better than it was. Could add momentum there, could add momentum to 2027. So I think adding Karece Hoyt here is just another piece of the puzzle for the momentum this program's trying to build.
Yeah, and I'll add to that as well, is when you get to these end of these cycles in the summer of portal cycles and you start adding bodies, well, part of the issue there is not having the bodies on campus, and recruiting in high school is extremely important because of that. Like if you have depth issues, it's because you are not recruiting high school kids, and Baylor has had that. And so when you get to the portal, you're more laser focused on, okay, hey, we need 10 guys at these positions. And that's what you're getting. You're not adding guys late into the summer because you have depth issues. These classes at Baylor's, that's the foundation moving forward. The last two cycles, you're bringing in a lot of guys on out of the portal that have to contribute at a high level for your team to be its best. Baylor can't afford to do that constantly every single year. And I think that where, let's say, for instance, Oregon or Georgia or Texas A&M, they're going to prioritize so many guys high end in the portal that Baylor's windows, TCU's windows, Texas Tech's windows to recruit high school kids and offer them more money out of high school is so important. Like go and establish those relationships and then give something on top of it. And kids are going to want to pick you. We saw it some last year. We've seen it more now. And that's the reality of college football. Like that's not a Baylor thing, specific thing. This is happening all over the place where blue bloods are focusing in on the transfer portal high end. They're willing to dedicate more money to those proven guys and not as much to the high school guys. That's where Baylor can make their really go kind of punch above their class weight in terms of recruiting guys like this.
Agreed. And that's kind of the I think blueprint going forward is continuing to recruit the high school level well, and then mixing that in with the transfer portal guys that fit exactly kind of what you're looking for. And that's what Baylor's trying to do. That's what they're trying to build here. And we're seeing that the NIL is there. Like the program is committed to it, and they're committed to making these things work and making this program successful. So now we'll just see if those results translate to the field. But for now, on the recruiting side of things, it looks really good. And this commitment just kind of continues to solidify that. And I do think it does speak to the fact that, recruits are seeing what Baylor is doing as a positive and not a negative.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to keep in mind, because at the end of the day, that kind of matters the most. What recruits are thinking about what you're putting on the field, the product that you're putting on the field, and the relationships with the coaching staff that they clearly have a lot of trust in and a lot of faith in. And so we'll see how that continues. But big news again for Baylor to land a prospect like this. Big news for the 2027 recruiting class with 2 4-stars, and now are ranked as the number 20 recruiting class in the country for 2027, second in the Big 12, only to Texas Tech.
All right, Baylor fans, thank you for tuning into this special podcast episode about Baylor football recruiting with Grayson Greenhafer. I'm Colt Barber. Have a great day, and Sic 'em Bears.
Join Sic 'em 365 Premium on a $1 for 1 month trial to read our experts' notes and insights. Know about high school commits, off-season transfers, coaching staff changes, and so much more before the rest. Also, download the Sic 'em 365 app on your iPhone today to get instant notifications of breaking news, read up on the latest inside info, easily interact with other Baylor fans on our forums, and get alerts for anything published by your favorite staff members.